I didn't remember. I knew I was here before, but I had no idea which events and whether it was the first or the third or whatever. I just remember the original name, which we'll not talk about. So okay, it's great being here. Yeah, as many others, I have a QR code that will give you the chance of winning this particular copy of my book at the end of this session. And this one is special because there are two versions of my book, Human Robot Agent. One is the extremely expensive, unaffordable, full color version with hardcover, this one. And there's the black and white that everyone else can afford. Now, this is printed on demand. It is so expensive to print color books on demand with hardcover that I didn't even dare to add royalties on top of this. So it's just the printing cost. So please don't buy this on Amazon, okay? Buy the other one so that I actually earn a bit of money with that one. Anyway, so if you fill out your name and email address, then you give me permission to nag a bit later on. And I will also send you, by the way, tomorrow, tonight or tomorrow, the complete PDF of the full color version, I promise you. So the complete book, full color version in PDF version you get from me if you fill that out. So yeah, I've been looking into this topic, and but first I'd like to address something else, and it has been addressed before. There's perhaps something that we should not name anymore, okay? This brand has an issue, I noticed, around the world, not just here in Poland, it's all across the world. I pick up similar signals about workshops and conferences in decline. Even Google Trends shows a downward slope. And meanwhile, we're still bickering with each other in this highly uncertain world. I mean, people are losing jobs left and right, software engineers, middle managers, agile coaches, you name it. But in the meantime, the tech billionaires and rich corporations and questionable regimes are trying to dominate the world of AI. And we are fighting with each other still over Scrum versus Kanban and safe versus less and story points versus estimates. And I'm like, for God's sake, people, grow up. There's a world outside that doesn't care at all, right? And even when I said public, okay, I'm going to focus on AI for a little bit. There were people in the Agile community saying, oh, splitter, as if that is a wrong thing. So let's get beyond that. I think there's things that we can do as Agilists, because I don't think anyone is better placed in this world than Agilists, and I consider myself one, to lead in the future of work that we are confronted with. And I will give you some examples. So I'll begin with a little story of last week. Last week, I was all alone last week because my husband was on vacation. Yay! All the week to myself. That meant that the home cinema was mine. And I could watch whatever I wanted. So I wanted to watch Foundation on Apple TV. Now, because it's sci-fi, I happen to have PCs, so I had to use my Google browser and cast through the Google Chromecast. So that went fine for 6 episodes until episode 7, and then the sound didn't work. What? I couldn't get the sound to work. I rebooted the sound bar, I rebooted my computer, I logged out and back in an Apple TV. I reset the projector. I could not get the sound to work for 15 minutes. What is going on? I had sound the previous days. Then I thought, okay, maybe try a different app on my computer because maybe the sound in the computer is broken or whatever. So I tried Spotify, no sound. What the fuck? I turned it really loud, and then I heard from another room, ka-ching, 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 ka-ching. What's going on? So I went into the other room, my office room, and there it was. In my suitcase, my Bluetooth speaker was playing the music. Happily, and it had also been playing all the sound of Apple TV for the last 20 minutes, of course. In that moment, I felt old. I thought, I cannot handle this anymore. For God's sake, everything depends on everything, and everything has a reason for better customer experiences, because yeah, we don't want to reconnect with our Bluetooth devices all the time, so it does that automatically, randomly, apparently. And God, I don't want this anymore. And I have this all the time. I don't know about your houses or your homes, but I spoiled my spaghetti just 2 weeks ago because I spent 10 minutes trying to get the Sonos speakers in the kitchen back to work, which had been working fine for several months. I'm in the middle of a webinar, and then halfway, Google Assistant starts spontaneously giving me a weather update and things like that. And I think, I'm too old for this shit. I want an assistant. I want an AI assistant, and I want to tell it, you fix that crap. There's no sound coming from the Sonos speaker, fix it. And we're not there yet, but I hope we will get there. Because as I notice myself, it is so enjoyable when you can just focus on your work. Me as a writer, when I can just work on my book and delegate all the crappy stuff to AIs. Like people who use AI to do tasks, they enjoy their work more. And they outsource the crappy, meaningless tasks to the AI so that they can focus. And yeah, I consider that a good thing. That is what I want to have more of. And I want to be the one that has insights in my work, because I want to be the one that has new ideas. ChatGPT can write about it together with me, but I want to be the one that can focus, and I don't want to be distracted by the music not working anymore on the speakers when I try to get some work done. So I have one hypothesis is that the world is getting increasingly complicated, and we just don't get it anymore. I offer you a picture here. I'm going to explain it at the end, but let's zoom in on the blue part here. AI is pushing things out, making things more complicated, but also helping us solve that at the same time. And that is for the first time that a technology not only causes the problem, but is also potentially helping solve that problem. Like, I think ChatGPT is the first technology ever for saying sorry to me when it's screwed up. This has not happened ever before in my life. That a tool says, I apologize, I will try again. Thank God. That's progress. So AI is both the problem and the solution here, making things more complicated. More complicated than complicated is inscrutable. We just don't get it. I mean, the average chip coming out of NVIDIA, there's not a single human being anymore who understands these chips. You need whole teams to understand these technologies. So I have one suggestion here, and that is to enable humans to focus. We want agentic assistance over static frameworks. Because what have we done in the Agile community? We have delegated this work of coordination and dependency detection and resolution, etc., to processes and frameworks, and we send people to a big room for PI planning or whatever to discuss the dependencies. I don't want that anymore. I want to send the AIs. I want to send the agents. You know what we are working on here. Go into the other room with the other agents and fix that. Detect the dependencies. They should be able to do that in the near future, so we can focus on our work. I have the QR code here again because I know you humans slow. So here it is again for those who were unable. You still have a chance to win the book. I sometimes feel that I live in the future, and I have been a generalist for a long time already, and that has helped me come up with interesting ideas. What many of you don't know, some of you know that I wrote Manage with 3.0, was my first book, but long before that, in the 90s, I was creating courseware for a training company. I had just graduated from university as a software engineer, but I created courses about programming in Visual Basic for applications in the Microsoft environment, because there was a lot of demand for that. There were courses. People went to 2-day courses to learn how to do programming in Microsoft Excel, for example. It was big business. So I wrote the courseware for that. I worked with a training company, and we licensed that. Big money, I can tell you. That was really a good business for a couple of years until everything collapsed at the end of the 90s because demand dried up, basically. But it stuck with me. Fast forward at the end of 2009, 2010, my book came out, Bench 3.0, and some people said, I think it was Lisa Crispin, who said to me, people are going to ask for workshops. Are you really? You think so? Yeah, she says. They're going to ask for workshop. Indeed, was right. People started to ask for workshops because the book became a success. And I remembered from the 90s, I hate doing courses, at least if it's the same course all the time, boring. I like designing courses, and then I want to give it to somebody else to do them. There's licensing. I knew that from the 90s. So I transported that idea to management and leadership. Nobody did that in the Agile community. Everyone's making their own courseware and then doing their own courses. And I was, I think, the first one who picked up that idea from another domain. This is what generalists do. There is a great benefit to being a generalist. The bigger the picture, the more unique the human contribution, says David Epstein in his book Range. Because the generalists connect the dots across multiple domains. And actually, according to some, this is actually what AI is doing to us now. Because if you're a specialist in just one area, like you're a T-skilled person, I'm sure some of you have heard of the T-skilled concept. We've been talking about that for 20 years. If you have one specialization and you branch out a little bit in other areas, yeah, that was beneficial because you could help out your product owner, you could help out your tester as a software engineer and get things unstuck. But software engineering would still be your specialization. But what if AI is taking over software engineering? AI is taking over one specialization after the other. So this is risk management, basically. If you have multiple specializations, there is less of a chance of AI stealing your job because you have two specializations. You maybe have three, so you will be hurt less. On top of that, those who actually have multiple specializations connect the dots across domains. And there's plenty of evidence, for example, that shows that Nobel Prize winners very often are specialists in multiple domains. They are molecular biologists and they are theoretical physicists, for example. Or they have a hobby, theater or whatever, that they know a lot about. And then they transplant ideas from one domain to the other and they come up with amazing insights that were duh in one domain, but completely new in another. So they can abstract away these concepts. And that is what AI is doing to us, I believe, as well. So I highlighted the red part of this model, tight and then flexible and then loose. This is about the modularity of things around us. If we have multiple specializations and more people in the organization have that, it makes the organization more clickable, like Lego. And you have more options. You reduce the risk of AI taking over your job, and you will offer more in terms of innovation at the same time. So I say that in able to innovate, we want connected domains overboxed in roles. And I think that is what we in the Agile community have been doing a little bit too often. Like we have said, you're either a Scrum Master or you're a product owner. You cannot be both. Bad if you do both, we said. And then someone might ask, okay, but can I then be a Scrum Master on one team and a product owner on another team? No, you have to be on one team. Dedicate to one team. So we've always been boxing people in. And I think we should stop doing that, because the added value for humans in this new future of work is to be able to connect the dots. Because the AIs literally cannot think outside of the box of the training data that they have used to become the LLMs that we use these days. But I have more insights. This one is one that I find interesting, about being more agile than ever. Now, I'm sure that you're well aware, as I am, that there have been quite a few Agile is dead articles on LinkedIn and whatnot in the last year or so. I think Agile has been pronounced dead even more often than Elon Musk has promised fully self-driving cars. And that's a lot. That's quite a lot. And they're still not here, the fully self-driving cars, and we still have Agile events going on. But we can be more agile than ever, and one way of doing that is in how we form team structures. Now, I'm happy that the speaker before me, where are you, Blas? It's over there. Yay! Addressed the same or a similar topic, because I think we connect here on this one. We have been boxing people into teams a bit too often, in my experience, and they don't do that in other industries. For example, in hospitals, imagine someone is rushed into a hospital and needs to be operated on, maybe after being hit by a self-driving Tesla or whatever. They need to save that person's life. Who is going to do that? Are they going to find a specific team of whom maybe half are not available on vacation, have a burnout situation, or are just have a sabbatical? No, they work with who is there, right, in the hospital, because this needs to be done fast. They have minutes, perhaps, to save a person's life. And I know one thing for sure. When they rush to the operating room to save that person's life, nobody is going to suggest to the other team members, hey, let's make a team agreement. I have this canvas I found on the internet. Maybe we should quickly fill that out while running with each other to the operating room. No, that makes no sense. They already know how to work as a team. They are trained to form teams on the spot with whoever is there because they're professionals. They do that teaming at the next higher level. It's the same with fire departments. When they rush towards the city to put out a fire or get a cat from a tree or whatever, what they will not do on the fire truck is forming, storming, norming, performing, right? It makes no sense. They do that, but they do that back home in their base, in their tribe, in the fire department when they have time. That is the next higher level. At the team of teams level, they do that. They also do that with airlines. They do that with hospitals and so on. But we've had difficulties with this in the software development world. We said, don't do this because it is painful to do reteaming, to work across different contexts. But we now have an opportunity with artificial intelligence and data. While human-to-human interaction shaped our cognitive limitations, yeah, my glasses are not good enough, so I'm going to walk over here. Collaborating with AI systems opens up new possibilities that challenge our traditional understanding of cognitive constraints. Our traditional understanding of cognitive constraints was we should keep people on the same team because having them work across multiple teams is painful. There's too much cognitive load. Also addressed by the previous gentleman. I'm not talking about team cognitive load, I'm talking about individual cognitive load. Yay! So AI can address that. For example, let's take the metaphor of the hospital. Imagine a doctor moving from one operating room to the other, and he's a specialist, or she is a specialist. That doctor does not keep all the knowledge of the patients in their heads. Why would they? They know in general how the human body works. They're trained for that. And then when they enter the next room, they have all the data on the displays. They see the previous medication, the previous treatment, the current heart rate, blood pressure, brain activity, you name it. And then they can do their thing. Could we maybe perhaps do something similar with software engineers and architects and others who move from one context to the other? They don't need to remember everything of each context. They are served in the moment everything there is to know about that context. This is the current architecture of this product. The actual real architecture, not as documented by an intern last year, but as it really is now according to the AI. And then you can go and do your thing. I think that is where we are headed. And in this book, The Future of Work, to meet customer demands and maximize revenue, the global workforce must function as a cohesive unit, necessitating the development of teaming skills. We need to be better at teaming. This is a skill that we can develop. Form new teams on the fly, because they do that also in plenty of other industries. You can respond faster to both risks and opportunities with whoever is there on hand to address that. Again, I highlight the red part of the picture here. It makes the organization more modular, it more clickable, more like Lego, and that is a big opportunity, a big win for organizations if they can do that. So summarizing this one, I would say to enable organizations to respond, we want accelerated results over optimized teams. Optimization of the team is still sub-optimization. It's irrelevant, optimization of the team. What we want to optimize is the results, the outcomes, the impact that the business generates for customers and other stakeholders. Let's move on to this one of my favorites. So I may have shared this story before in Poland. I'm not sure at which event, but if you heard it before, just laugh politely. I've been at a company Haier in China. They are the manufacturers of household appliances like vacuum cleaners and dishwashers and laundry machines and all that stuff. Big. And I was invited, like many other people who wrote management and leadership books, because they wanted to learn from everyone around the world. I met the CEO, Mr. Zhang, fascinating person. I did a 2-day management 3.0 class in Qingdao in China. There were 3 cameras in the back of the room recording everything. I didn't mind. I just had a hell of a time. It was crazy. I had an interpreter next to me who translated everything that I was saying, so it was pretty slow because I had to wait all the time for the translation. And he called me Professor Jurgen, consequently. I liked that. Yeah, it was nice. It had a certain touch to it, yeah. So I don't mind if anyone feels inclined to call me Professor Jurgen. And I'm a person who tends to crack a joke every now and then, you may have noticed. And then the people in the room were laughing when I cracked a joke after the translation. And after a while, I got suspicious. How is it possible that every joke I make in English is translatable to Chinese? I mean, at some point, the translator should struggle with something that is a English idiom or that has no translation. So at the end of the day, during dinner, I asked the translator, what do you do? And I make a joke in English and you cannot translate it because people are always laughing. And he said with a very straight face, in that case, I say, Professor Jurgen made a joke and now we all have to laugh. Brilliant. Brilliant. And the guy had no sense of humor, so I'm sure he was honest at that moment. So one of my favorite stories. Another one, and I actually picked that up from one of the books about Haier, because multiple books have been written about this company. And for your context, I forgot to mention, Haier had already gone through a revolutionary redesign as an organization. They have split into 3,000 micro enterprises, 3,000 small business units, basically responsible for their own profit and loss, collaborating in a huge network without middle management. They turned all the middle managers into CEOs. The CEO of Haier said to all of them, you are now mini CEOs. You run your business in any way you want, but we're going to look at your profit and loss. Good luck. And that was, of course, in the beginning chaos, but over time they've learned to manage that, and the company scales tremendously because they scale out. They don't scale up. And for example, they have multiple HR departments that compete and collaborate with each other for the privilege of being able to serve the rest of the company. I've never heard of a company having multiple HR units that are employee focused instead of CEO focused. So that was interesting. So one story I read was about a washing machine, type of washing machine in the rural parts of China that had a lot of trouble, that problems. There were service requests filed for that washing machine. And when they looked into the cause of the trouble, it turned out that local farmers were washing their potatoes and vegetables in the washing machine. Now, why on earth would someone do that? It's for your clothes, for your jeans, not for your potatoes, for God's sake. But one of the units investigated and they found out the actual reason. It turns out that as a farmer, you get a higher price on the local market if your veggies are clean. You can charge more. So they were always busy cleaning the potatoes until someone noticed, hey, wait a minute, I have a machine over there that just yesterday did my shirt. I'm now here washing my potatoes. Let's see if it can do the potatoes. It did for a few months until it broke down. Now, this is, of course, not a stupid customer. This is a smart customer that doesn't have the right device, the right machine for this type of problem. So one of those 4,000 units, they modified a laundry machine so that it prototyped as a veggie washing machine. I'm not sure if it could still also do your clothes, maybe with a dial between veggies versus jeans or something. I have no idea. But big success. And the hired as a CEO was not involved. Because you were allowed. You see an opportunity in the market, respond to it, make it a product, use an MVP, etc. The most agile company I've ever experienced. This was 15 years ago, basically. This was way ahead of what we now call algorithmic management. You replace basically entire middle management layers with algorithms, smart contracts. That is what Hire has. Figure out which other units you want to collaborate with. If you want to produce 15,000 laundry machines, you're going to have to do that with a couple of other units because that's too much as a single unit. So all of that is automated, the contracting and the win-win distribution of profits and you name it. Fascinating. And there, with AI, there's a lot of opportunity here. Because, let me peek again, AI can improve transparency in the warehouse or in the workplace. It lies more closely with expectations of workers and it reduces perceived threats. Just imagine that you're a worker who has experience with traditional management. I know a number who feel AI bosses as liberation because an algorithm doesn't have favorite team members. An algorithm doesn't play political games with the other algorithms that the employees then suffer from. The algorithms are not busy kissing up and kicking down in the hierarchy. The algorithms literally don't care. And that is freedom for some people. It's like gig workers reporting to Uber platform, number of rides, and they don't have a human boss that they have one-on-ones with. No, it's just number, data. Some people think, oh, thank God. If I want coaching, I will find it another way, maybe with an AI, with ChatGPT these days. Of course, there are also negative implementations. Amazon is a famous example of that. Amazon has literally weaponized AI in their workplaces, in their warehouses, to prevent people from unionizing in the US. Well, this is Amazon. We know the stories of Amazon. So algorithmic management, AI, is just a tool. It depends on how you use it. You can use it to weaponize it against unionization, or you can use it to detect if people are too stressful and are maybe on the verge of a burnout, and then warn them, like, hey, take a break. Because what you're doing now is not only costly for you, but also for us as the organization. This is win-win if you detect potential burnout situations. That is what the good implementations are for. So is that good or bad, algorithmic management? I don't know. Depends. Who's implementing it? For what reason? In which kind of organizational culture? So I highlighted the yellow part here, the ambiguity, because it's the same with all kinds of tools. They're intrinsically neither good nor bad. It depends how they are applied. That is what we humans are for, right? To make the wise decisions. And the one thing that I like to emphasize with Hire, they call their philosophy zero distance. There should be zero distance between the workers and the customers. So you have immediate data about what is happening with the laundry machines and with the vacuum cleaners and so on. All of that is collected. So every worker sees what is happening with the product. There's no middle management in between, no product management layers and whatnot. So to enable zero distance networks, we want unbiased algorithms over politicized managers, at least. That is what I would suggest. Oops, yeah, this slide. Sorry. But there is a bit more, a couple of more fascinating topics in my opinion. So I wrote this book with a couple of other people, and AIs, of course. But the people were a copy editor, a book designer, a book marketer, and yeah, that was it. And it feels very agile. I mean, it was produced in faster than ever. Normally, it takes about 1,000 hours to write a business book. For me, this took 500 hours because I had digital helpers, yay, that helped me do research and review the text and find links and everything. So I was much faster than before. But with those, the human ones, they all report to me. I mean, the book editor reports to me, and the book designer reports to me, and the marketer talks with me, and nobody talks with each other. They didn't even know each other. That is how most of the gig work platforms these days still work, right? You hire individual gig workers, and then you are the coordinator of all those gig workers, moving files back and forth. This was literally what I did. Okay, I got the new version of the editor. That goes to the book designer. Okay, I got the new version of the book designer. That goes to the marketer, and so on. But I think that needs to change. There's a huge potential for turning the gig work platforms and the gig economy into true agile teams. And again, there are different signals there. On the one hand, one significant concern is the impact on job security for gig workers, because yeah, some of them are losing their jobs. I have a cousin who is or was a copywriter. Well, good luck. No copywriting for him. All of that is being done by ChatGPT. There are logo designers who are basically not designing logos anymore. Maybe they should elevate to the brand management level or something, because the logos are being designed by AIs these days. So yeah, some lose their jobs. But on the other hand, like me, you're much faster in everything that you do. So you can serve more customers, you can expand, you can do more, orchestrate multiple agents. And it's almost certain that most gig workers use AI-powered tools, serving more customers and making more money. So here I highlighted the green part, the scalability. Gig work platforms are much more scalable than traditional organizations. And there's one thing that people forget in all the discussions about all the bad things that corporations these do, and there's quite a bit of talk about the power distance between the workers versus the top management and the income difference. So they make 500 more times money than the average team member and things like that. And it's only getting worse with AI. And okay, that might be true. But did you know that out of the entire ecosystem or the economy, the part that is dominated by traditional corporations is steadily shrinking? That other part, where gig workers, freelancers, contractors, and so on work, including distributed autonomous organizations, DAOs, and so on, that part is steadily growing. And I think that part needs help in order to work as agile teams, because the processes and tools and so on are not made for that yet. And I think that is going to be incredibly interesting, particularly as a counterweight to the traditional organizations who are trying to set the agenda. To enable the future of teamwork, I would like a spontaneous teams over rigid structures. I love working with freelancers. They're so much more flexible and responsible and autonomous and so on. But I don't have the agile tools and so on and processes in place yet. So something to work on for us agilists. So I write a book, multiple books. I write blog posts, newsletters on Substack. I make videos sometimes. I'm on stage here and there. And I've tried to describe this as a process, and I can't. Because sometimes an idea begins as a blog post and then later ends up in my book, and then I might even do a video of it. Sometimes something begins as a video and then later I might turn that into a blog post and perhaps it turns into a book. There are ideas that I got while writing the book. Then later I could make a blog post and a video. Same with ideas on stage. Sometimes I have an idea on stage and I think, oh, I should turn that into a blog post. I've tried to describe that with a workflow, with a value stream. I gave up. I can't. I just gave up. Maybe I'm just too stupid or whatever, but my life it doesn't work like that. Because one week I'm at home all week long, another week I have 2 events and so on. It's basically chaos. My workflow is chaos. It is context-driven, action-oriented, or a human-centric, action-oriented operating system or something like that. Maybe I should trademark that at some point. But it's unpredictable, and I thought maybe I'm just the idiot here who doesn't know how to draw a proper value stream of the ideas. And then it turns out no, there's actually more people who struggle with this. Actually, it's getting worse. It is highlights in this book, Human plus Machine. Businesses need to shift from seeing processes as collections of sequential tasks. In the age of AI, processes become more dynamic and adaptable. So instead of visualizing a process as a collection of nodes, as a straight line, it is maybe better to see it as a sprawling network of reconnectable nodes. That is fascinating. What is already happening with the larger economy of supply lines, supply chains between companies, that is also increasingly happening within the organizations. Remember that ship that got stuck in the Suez Canal a couple of years ago, the green something? Yeah. All the other ships had to go around it and find alternative routes. So what people don't realize with a value stream mapping, and it's been very successful. I mean, Håkan is here. Where's Håkan? Not here. Okay. Fantastic stuff, lean, I mean, super important, but there is still a hidden assumption in value stream mapping, which is that the future workflow items will go across these columns. That's an assumption. How do you know? Maybe other work items start at the 3rd column and then go to 2nd and then the 4th and then the 5th and do the number 1 at the end. And that is what happens with supply lines. Depending on context, depending what happens, depending on the chaos in the environment, things take another route. And we see this increasingly happening also inside organizations. Actually, this is also mentioned in this book, The Coming Wave by Mustafa Suleyman, AI expert at Microsoft. He says because of the whole wave of new technologies, AI, quantum computing, biotech, you name it, all of that is converging, resulting in a wholesale revolution in the nature of production. So how we produce things is going to be very different in the next decade than it was in the previous decades. We cannot simply capture it anymore in linear value streams. We're going to come up with smarter visualizations. I think actually each individual work item will have its own linear path, but then you can only talk about all work items in a statistical manner, like with ships. We know the ships usually take this route unless something happens, and then they take that route, and we can have, with the data, we can have some forecasts about how many work items will take with which routes, etc. It's going to be the same inside the organization. That's a bit of chaos that I describe here. So that's why I highlighted the brown part, the orange part, volatility. The volatility of the value stream is going up, and AI is only pushing that outward. And that is also because of better user experiences that we want to offer. Because one aspect of AI is that we can distinguish between far more individual customers. Hyper-specialization is one of the promises of data and artificial intelligence. We've already seen that with Amazon and Netflix and so on. Everyone has their own homepage, but we see that happening in plenty of other organizations and producers. Nike can print shoes per person these days. You give it the design and they ship it to you. That is hyper-personalization. I thought actually with my book, we could also hyper-personalize, because this is printed on demand, which means that only when you make an order, Amazon and their competitor, Ingram Sparks, who serve all the bookstores, they print the copy for you. And then I thought, okay, but why do they print the same copy for everyone? They could print a copy per person, so why not put the name in there? I could include a variable on the dedication page and say, insert customer name. And then you have a printed copy with your name dedicated to, ta-da, would be nice. I know, it's just an idea. Technically possible. I'm not sure people want it, but technically it's possible. We can even go further. I mentioned Elon Musk, I must admit, in my book a few times, because I think you can learn from everyone, including the world's biggest assholes. They made some decisions that were quite admirable. So let's talk about those. But yeah, some people are then offended. Why are you discussing him? So I thought, okay, we could theoretically resolve that by including certain paragraphs between tags and say, exclude or include this block, depending on what you previously bought on Amazon platform, right? If the previous, depending on whether your previous purchase was a rainbow flag or a copy of Mein Kampf, it would include or exclude the right paragraph. It's just an idea. It's just an idea. I mean, but AI could do this, right? AI could do that with book. I don't think there's a demand for this, to be honest. This is just a hypothetical example. I think actually, in terms of experience, most people want exactly the same copy of a book as other people have. But this is what AI can do. So to enable better experiences, we want emergent flows over linear processes, and that is basically the point that I want to make. We're going to see more and more unpredictability in how the work items flow across the boards, and we have some thinking to do on how to visualize that, or actually the AI agents will have to think about how they're going to visualize that for us. Where are the work items, the ships right now in the flow on the map? Visualize that in a more interesting way than a traditional Kanban board. And now the topic that was already addressed earlier today among some of you. I said, yeah, I wanna highlight that as well. I've been speaking, I think now for 18 years. I enjoy it, from small events to large events. I'm super happy and proud that I will be the closing keynote at Agile conference in Denver in the summer. Been there before, and it's super awesome. But you don't start there. I mean, one of the very first events, I don't know, 2008, I have to pay for travel and the hotel and everything, and prepare my own slides, and then it was a very small stage on the worst track at the end of the day, but I did it all, right? And I was not the junior of some kind of senior speaker that I was making the slides for. So that I was making the slides for the senior speaker, and then the senior speaker would go on stage with my slides. Or I was not bringing the coffee to the senior speaker, right? Not the senior speaker's personal assistant. No, I was a speaker. I was a junior. I was practically an intern, but I did it all myself. And I think that is a fundamental mistake that many traditional corporations make in how they treat juniors. Because if you treat juniors and interns as task bots, they will be replaced by actual task bots, AI, right? So why invest in training a young professional when AI can do the job faster, cheaper, and without the risk of a 2-week notice? Or without the risk of the Gen Z drama, right? You're faster when you don't use juniors. Yay, let's kick them out. Actually, wonderfully described in this book, The Skill Code, there's a compelling short-term case for cutting the novices out of the action, because they are slower, they deliver lower quality work. So if we don't use juniors and use AI instead, we're faster. We optimize the value stream. Yay, everyone happy. Customers happy, higher quality work, delivered sooner. Management is happy because it is cheaper, higher profits. Who isn't happy? Well, the company next year. And here you see a fundamental problem still of both lean and agile, because they optimize for today, for the present. Even value stream optimization is still sub-optimization. We ultimately, right? Yeah, right? It's still sub-optimization. If you sub-optimize a part and the value stream is a part of the whole organization, if you optimize a part, you sub-optimize the whole. And in this case, you sub-optimize for the future, because, yeah, who's going to be the seniors next year? And there's something else that some people forget. Actually, juniors and interns play an important role, because they pull the seniors, the experts, out of their curse of knowledge. This is the idea that the experts think that they know it all. They've been there before, they know what is the best practice, they know how to do this because they've done this 1,000 times before. Yes, but the environment around them is slowly changing. And it sometimes takes an intern, a beginner, to ask the stupid questions, like, why are we doing things like this? And then the expert is like, oh, do I have to explain it again? Yes, why don't you explain it? Just make it knowledge that we all can understand, and then maybe we realize that that best practice of yesterday is not a good practice today anymore. There's better ways of doing things, and actually the juniors are good at pointing that out. So I highlighted the purple part, reflexivity, because everything is interdependent. That's basically what reflexivity is. The observer influences the system influences the observer. AI influences us, we influence AI. There's this feedback cycle going on. Interns influence the seniors and vice versa. And there's just more and more feedback cycles these days with more and more reflexivity. To enable a thriving business, we want a successful future over an optimized present, in my opinion. Last one, and then we're going to start wrapping it up. The human in the loop. So I came here by plane, not surprisingly, too far of a walk. And I am pretty happy that the pilots on the plane are required by law to keep training, to keep practicing their profession, even though perhaps they delegate 99% of their work to the co-pilots in the cockpit, or the whatever they call it these days, the flight deck they call it nowadays. But they have to practice, because if they don't practice their skills, they're slowly going to be de-skilling themselves. And this is a real problem, specifically in the age of AI. Because many humans' skills deteriorate when they are not practiced on a consistent basis, right? If AI frequently replaces practice, the humans who are supposed to quality check the AI lose the skills they need to evaluate the AI effectively. This is happening right now with software developers who use Claude, Copilot, OpenAI's new tool, there are plenty, to write all the code that they wrote before. If they never ever write code themselves, at some point they will stop losing the important talent, the skill of validating or verifying that that code actually makes sense, of seeing the bugs and the security holes and so on, and so on. It's the same with self-driving cars. There are a number of places in the world where it's already required by law that people in their cars are supposed to be able to intervene when they think something goes wrong. The question is that a good thing or not? Well, that depends on the quality of the person who is trying to intervene. If they never driven a car themselves, how are they going to judge if the machine is doing a good job or not? Because the machines are actually becoming incredibly good at driving. So it could very well be that allowing a human to intervene in a self-driving car, thinking they are preventing an accident, by allowing them to slam the brake, they cause the very accident that they thought they were preventing in the first place. It could be more of a problem than a solution, depending on the talent of the driver. So if your job is to see to look at the car go and then say whether it's doing a good job or not, and maybe take over, you're going to have a problem. Because it's long known that people adapt to their tools and automation creates complacency. So I think probably we need to introduce some kind of, I don't know, test with self-driving cars. You're only allowed to intervene if you have validated skills like level 10 in Grand Theft Auto or something like that, verifiable on the blockchain, and then you're allowed to intervene. Otherwise you're not, because you do not have the skill to even evaluate what the machine is doing. Again, ambiguity I highlighted in this case. Because, yeah, is it a good thing, is it a bad thing? Should we allow humans to intervene or not? Well, it depends. To enable the right interventions, we want human wisdom over machine knowledge. The machines have all the knowledge, but it is up to us to decide what is wise or not. We should be the ones with the insights and the understanding of the consequences. So I call this the Wicked Framework. It is here in this book, very, very colorful, because I'm still in my midlife crisis, so I need a lot of color to make the world a little bit of a happy place. And it's just one alternative that I offer for those interested in complexity thinking and systems thinking and so on. It is a bit more complicated than the other models out there. I'm sure some of you are familiar with VUCA, Barney, Kuhneven, and so on. This one has a few more boxes to tick, so the conversations could be a bit longer. But hey, all tools are useful depending on context. So I'd offer it just as an alternative for people to play with. But I think it's time to wrap this up. We started with that whole problem with the Agile community, that we need to be more agile than ever. Actually, that's the ironic thing. The world needs us. The world needs us, but is not asking for us anymore, because the fashionable part actually has died out. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it's the famous Gartner hype cycle that starts like this and then goes like that and then it goes slowly up again. Maybe we now enter that phase where things go back to normal and now we can actually do some sensible stuff. But I think the Agilists are needed. We are the ones with the right mindset to help organizations. And there's more uncertainty than ever. We just discussed it earlier today in the open space. It's also in this book by Reid Hoffman. There's never been so much uncertainty in the world. And facing such uncertainty is only natural to have concerns about our jobs, about our careers, and so on. Well, who are the ones with the mindset to deal with an uncertain world? That was the whole point of Agile, wasn't it? That's why we're here. We just have a shitload of work to do. But I just think that we need to rephrase it, what we're doing. So I rephrase it as follows. I want agentic assistance. I don't want frameworks. I want agents doing the work for me, so I can focus on my work. And I want unbiased algorithms, not managers who play political games. Just unbiased algorithms to work with that help me connect domains. I don't want to stay in one box and be told you work here, not over there. No, I want to work across multiple boxes because that's where we humans add value. And I want to accelerate results in spontaneous teams, maybe in the gig economy, because I prefer working with freelancers, but we have plenty to do in traditional corporations as well, in terms of spontaneous dynamic teams, with emergent flows that are not necessarily linear, but that just emerge in the moment, depending on context. And then we still need to visualize that somehow. We have to figure that out and ensure a successful future, not just a successful present, because we still want the company to be there next year, right? Governed with human wisdom, because machines have taken over data, information, now they're taking over knowledge. What is left? Wisdom. What is the wise decision to make? Should we or should we not introduce algorithmic management in this part of the organization? Should we or should we not change the career ladder for juniors over here? Should we or should we not allow people to intervene? And so on. A lot of decisions to make. There was a fascinating report by Microsoft just a couple of weeks ago about the future of work, the future work trend index, whatever, where they predicted how things will be evolving. This is where we are now with one human and multiple AIs or agents. Like in my case, I use Gemini, ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, a whole bunch of them. But I am still the director. It's me literally copy-pasting results back and forth, usually, between the AIs. They barely know of each other's existence. The next step is going to be this. We're not there yet, but this is what they're working on right now. That we have AI assistants, agents, that will be the managers of all those different LLMs and so on. Then we can say, I want to say to that AI agent, fix my music problems in my house. And then it works with the various technologies and so on to fix the issues. That is what is happening now. Interestingly enough, Microsoft did not draw what comes after this. I think what comes after this is a picture like that, where we just have a network of humans and a lot of AI agents around us doing work collaboratively. And this network needs us. It needs agility, that this network needs to know everything about delivery and design and workflows and value streams and you name it. And we're not there yet, but this is, I believe this is coming. Actually, just last week, oh, you want to take a picture? Go ahead. Go ahead, take a picture. Am I in this picture? You can call me Professor Jurgen if you want. Yeah. Actually, just last week, I picked up these 4 quotes. I'm not kidding. I actually found these 4 quotes in the last week. In partnership with platform operators, tasks could be simplified and teams could have API-like interactions with other teams. There's Rita McGrath, professor, top 50 thinker in the world, etc. She said teams are going to have API interfaces with each other. We don't put things in Jira anymore because basically we use Jira as the interface between multiple teams. No, we're going to use AI agents. Like, okay, what's the next task? And the AI agent will tell you, well, the other team is struggling with this. That's going to all be lifted to the level of agents. If AI can map, model, and synthesize operating information close to real time, then it's possible to create the visibility and legibility to operate more agile and autonomous models, says Lee Bryant in his Substack newsletter. And another one from a book I just finished about agents. The real opportunity lies not in developing agents, but in establishing the infrastructure that powers their interactions, platforms, protocols, and ecosystems. All of that stuff that was in SaaS platforms is going to be elevated, those workflows, to agents working around us. And they'll allow us, hopefully, to focus on our work. And we tell them, there's this dependency, or they found out there's a dependency with another team, and they will coordinate that for us. And the last one I read just 2 days ago, agents will collaborate like humans. You won't prompt one, you will orchestrate dozens. There are 3 blockers left: memory, security, and protocols. How agents talk. Again, it's very, very early days, but this is what's coming. And this is also what I want to be focusing on in the next days, weeks, months. I already have a cool name for it. I'm going to call it harmony. I love the word harmony. I figured out, together with Zed, ChatGPT, we came up with a human-agent relationship management orchestration negotiation system. Isn't that cool? But it's not about the acronym. I want to create harmony in a world of AI agents. I think there's a huge amount of stuff to do for Agilists in this room and elsewhere. And maybe we're just not calling it agile anymore, but it is, to the extreme. So hopefully some of you will be joining me in that. So thank you so much for listening, and we are going to pick a winner for this book. So I'm going to look at my phone to see the messages that have come in. And, yep, I see them, lots and lots and lots. Okay, so I'm going to randomly flip my phone, and then I'm going to ask you, Paul, I now have a random page, yep, with 10 names. You give me a number from 1 to 10. 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Andrei Dragan. Over there, you win the book. All right, just come to me afterwards. Thank you so much for listening, and have a great rest of the event, okay? Thank you.